Nanny here. We're live. It is 7:02. I missed it by that much. I'm doing the live feed tonight with StreamYard. So I'm going to show you, different photos. Got the Kenne bell blower. We're doing a cam test. We ran a 5-liter. Got our comp cam. Got our airflow research heads. Got some power graphs. Got some boost graphs. Got lots of good stuff here. So we got lots of stuff to talk about. So the question is, this comes from way back in the day when I did a test with a Kenne bell supercharger that we ran on a 5-liter Ford. I think one of the photos I shown were stock kind of pistons. I don't think this thing had stock pistons in it. I remember it having some sort of, probably like the factory forged pistons that had valve release in them. And that gave us enough room, because I think that short block had been built at one time. It may have had forged rods and pistons in it, not a forged crank though, because it was still a 302. Normally when we're doing that, if we're going to step up in the crank, we would do a 347 or 325, 331 kind of thing. But this was still a 302. Might have been a 306 or something. It might have been 30 over. And we ran it with the Kenne bell blower on it. We had 36-pound injectors on it. We were tuning it, I think, with the factory ECU, and I think that Mark was doing the tuning on it. And we ran it first with Kenne bell blower, and we ran it at, like, I don't know, I think 8 or 9 pounds or something, or 7 or 8 pounds or something. We'll look at the boost gauge and see what's going on here. Or look at the boost results, and we can kind of see what happened when we went from one cam to the other cam. And what we did was, same way we do it NA, we put the extreme energy cam at the 274 cam. So we went from a stock 5-liter cam, which is still pretty good, and guys have made good power with those, to a 224, 232 cam, mid 500 lift kind of thing. And way back in the day, it's like, oh no, you don't need cams for making power of the blower. Well, you do, and it will help. It'll definitely make more. So this thing was already equipped with good cylinder heads on it. It had airflow research heads. It had 185s on it. We had the Kenne bell. I don't remember what size it was. It wasn't the older 1.5, so something bigger than that. It was probably like a 2.2, I think. And so, yeah, it was not these pistons, that's for sure. That's our extreme energy cam. In addition to the 274 cam, we also ran a 258, which didn't obviously make as much as a 274 cam, but did make a good bit more than a factory camshaft. And so it would be a good option for a guy wanting, let's say a milder idle. I drove this 274 cam, a 224, 232 cam around a lot. And so if you're looking for that kind of cam, Comp obviously has it, but I think that TrickFlow has a less expensive version. And probably the guys at Anderson probably have a cam that would be like this. I don't know if they divulge their specs that they've been using for, I don't know, since the 80s. But something comparable to this. And I mean, you just look at it this way. If you put a cam in it, it makes more power NA, which most of these cams do compared to the factory one. Put a B303 and E303, any of the new Summit ones, this comp one, the smaller comp ones, the Anderson cams, you're not going to find something that's magic. You're going to find a cam that makes more power. And then if you have a blower on, it makes more power also under boost. It does that with a Vortec. It does that with a turbo. It does that with this Kenne bell. It does that with all of them. The one thing I would like to see on these Kenne bells is I just would like to see an intercooler on them. It would just be nice. And so here's what when we did the cam test, here is the power gain offered by this thing. It was making 420-ish, 430. And then, which doesn't seem like a lot. It should be making that naturally aspirated almost, I would think. But this is what we got to. And then when we put the camshaft in, we put the 274 cam in, it went to 475 or 480. So it picked up quite a bit. And then the other thing that it did on this thing is it lowered the boost quite a bit. So if we take a look, we can see it dropped from like 9.5 pounds to 7 pounds, I think. So it dropped boost quite a bit. I take that back. I think that this is not that graph. I think that the graph that we saw, we would have saw a decrease in boost as we go up in RPM with the camshaft. It did make less boost with the Extreme Energy cam, but it was only by about a pound. What we did, this thing dropped down to 7.5 pounds or so. And then when we raised the boost, which we did, we turned the boost up. And then when we turn the boost up, this is what happened when we turn the boost up. We went from like the 480 because we were close enough to the 500 number that we wanted this thing to make more than 500, and it did. It made 510 or something like that. And you can see because we went up in boost, we spun the blower faster. We added another 2 pounds, but that's the one that went from 7.5 to 9.92 or something. And it did exactly kind of what you would expect when we run more boost. It did railroad tracks, you know, more of a gain everywhere kind of thing. I honestly think we could have done a little better than this, having not run through the factory ECU. I don't know if the mass air meter was maybe problematic or something, but it seems to me that this combination should have made more power. That cam and airflow research heads, although it didn't have, it wouldn't have had a good intake manifold. It would have taken a really good intake manifold to push it beyond like the kind of 350 mark, let's say. But even at low boost, the Kenne Bell, I think, should have made more power than that. So maybe we were restricting it some other way, maybe on the inlet side or something. But at any rate, the test goes to show you what happens. You know, you put a camshaft in it, it makes more power, the boost comes down, and then you add more boost, and then it makes more power, and then, you know, everything's happy. And that's pretty typical. That's kind of what happens when we add a camshaft. This is always what happens when we add boost to the thing, because when you add boost, you're definitely going to pick up power. I like going the other way. That's why I like the camshaft upgrade, and or if we had stock cylinder heads on it, also that could have happened. I like making more power with less boost, which was what the cam does. A bigger throttle inlet and a bigger mass air meter, like a bigger throttle body, the bigger air inlet or the inlet after the throttle body, the intake manifold, I guess, going into the blower. If that's bigger, if the throttle body is bigger, if the mass air meter is bigger, if the air intake is bigger, what that will do is it can add more power if that is indeed a restriction. But what you'll see is more boost, because that's restricting the air going into the motor. And if you restrict the air going into the motor, the problem with that is that you're going to see it's going to be less power because it's restrictive. And it's also going to see, you're going to see less boost. The blower is going to make less boost because you're restricting it. And so if you see vacuum between the throttle or anywhere in the inlet and the blower, the net result is going to be less boost and less power on the other side of that. And you want to make sure that you don't do that, obviously. That's why you want to see like zero vacuum in that inlet system. And that includes the whole inlet system. A lot of guys will, oh, I put a big throttle body on it. Yeah, but then you neck down your air intake. That, you know, you got a 90 millimeter throttle body in it and you got a 75 millimeter tube running off of that. That doesn't do you any good, because all you've done is move the restriction forward. Now it's not the throttle body, and maybe not the inlet behind the throttle body going into the blower, but it's definitely the stuff in front of that. That's just as bad. That will also cause a restriction. The camshaft and cylinder head stuff, that's good for it. You know, more airflow, you know, better power, all of that's good for it. More displacement, obviously, also good for it. You can go with compression if you want to do that. The inlet side after the blower on this particular Kenne Bell basically has an inlet going into the back of the blower, and it discharges out of the top, basically, let's call it 180 degree kind of elbow that goes into whatever lower manifold you have on a 5 liter. Could be a factory 5 liter, could be the HO manifold, could also be a GT40. I think that those were the only two that they really did manifolds for. There were others, obviously, that were available, and maybe guys modified that discharge tube to make that work. But that's the other thing, is that inlet manifold, a GT40 manifold, is, you know, obviously just like a throttle body, flows better when you have boost going through it. But it could still be a restriction. For one thing, the way when you're replacing the upper intake manifold with the Kenne Bell, you got immediate boost response, and you got a twin screw supercharger, which is very, very efficient. But you've also taken away some of the runner length. So now you have a short runner length. So in theory, this thing should continue to rev if you want to rev. And we see kind of a rising power curve there. So if you wanted to rev it, you could do that, but it does reduce, kind of flattens the torque curve. It reduces torque production down low because it no longer has the runner length. It's offset that by having lots of boost, which is good, but both of those things obviously would be better. And then, like I said, I'd like to see that, and I'd also like to see an intercore. And you could offset mount the Kenne bell to blow through I think I picked something other than a GT40 or a Cobra, but you could use that. A high ram would be awesome if you wanted to make power upstairs. Obviously, very, very free flowing. A Kenne bell on top of a high ram would be good, and that would be possible, assuming that you have the hood clearance. Now, you would obviously need to have all that, but it still would be good. It would be like us putting the M90s or the 112s or the 122s on top of a high ram or a low ram like we did on the LS. You could do that on the Ford too. And I just wonder if the high ram gets that up high enough to not have a problem with the distributor. Maybe that would be okay. Oh, excuse me. So at any rate, it's, all of those things, just like we always talk about. 5-liter Ford, I like. I still have one. They're good. But if we look at this power output, that's the right cam and heads and intake manifold on a 5.3 does that, and on a 5.7 easily does that without boost. But hey, we've come a long way, and everything's kind of better now. Let's see what you guys got going on tonight. Untrue, what's going on? Jordan, do a Hellcat on the 5.3. Somebody reached out to me about that, and they also wanted the LT4 blow or something on there. Building a 302 for my old tri-hull boat. What should I look for when it comes to a cam? I'm using the water jacketed manifold, so reverberation is a thing. Something small. You could use the stock cam. I don't know what RPM you're running it to, so if you tell me the RPM, maybe we can kind of figure out a configuration there. Dennis, what's going on? Using EFI truck motor. I'm just going to port heads and change the cam with a dual plane. Okay. The truck motor, I think, is a milder cam than the 5-liter Mustang engine is. Raced one of those with the Black Widow F-150 with a blown 5-liter the other day. Using EFI truck motor, ported heads, 4-barrel dual plane, looking for a cam that's going to make peak power at 6,200 and not have to worry about the reverb. Oh, I think that's going to be a tough order. On a dual plane, you might be able to get there with a spacer on the dual plane, like a 650 carburetor is probably enough for that. The cam, I would try one of the smaller comp ones, or one of the, like an E303 from the Summit ones. If I can, I need to see where we made, I can take a look and see where we made peak power. Ford, small block Ford. That looks like a Chevy, because otherwise I wouldn't have 327. 302. Go to Summit Cam. 4303 Summit. Okay, so the Summit. Oh yeah, Summit Cam was right there. Summit Cam ran all the way to 6,400. Let's see what combination this was. This had the Blueprint aluminum heads on it, the CNC ones. It had TFS Stage 2 cam, which is that extreme energy cam. Performer RPM, but not an air gap, but same thing. Had a 750 on it. Had 1.6 rollers on it, 1 3/4 headers. So the cam, oh no, not the TFS cam. The Summit cam was a 220, 231. So that might be a little on the big side. Something smaller than that. I sent you an email with some of the oops pictures. I'll have to check it out. Brandon, call Iski. They made me a cam for my 502. Really doesn't cost extra. You can go too big on a boat cam. Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. If the hull requires a certain horsepower at a certain speed, the boat won't get up on plane. Also, if it idles too fast, wake tickets. Yeah, and the reversion in the wet exhaust too can be problematic. Like to put an M90 on it in the future, that would definitely help. Have you run this boat before? Like, do you know where you're running? Like what RPM you're running it at when you're out driving it around? When you're going fast in it? DMC, what happened there? I mean, I don't know what cam that was and stuff. Scans everywhere. It should come with this cam from the factory. Yeah. Well, and that's only 3,500. It would be, you know, I drove around the 274 a lot, but it does have an idle. It does have a noticeable idle. I'm pretty hard on it. Falls on space around 4,200, but it will climb to 5,400. Okay. That seems like a really, really long spread of another 1,200 RPM after falling on its face. It obviously hasn't fallen on its face if it continues to climb to 5,400. $5,400 seems like it would be going pretty fast. Seems like it's getting with the program. Never mind, thought it was a coyote. Yeah, no, that's not a coyote. Yeah, you'd be disappointed if your coyote only made 500 horsepower with the blower. He plans to do a 5-liter Big Bang. I don't know. If we did, it's not going to be with a Kenne Bell, that's for sure. We definitely would do it with a turbo. .462 valve, I definitely want to do. I think we would get to block splitting territory. 351 Big Bang would be good. Another one would redoing that would be good because it was not treated nicely the last time. It was not, and we did not treat it very well. We did not respect it. I was doing a little burnout, and the oil went from 80 psi to 0 in the span of 3 minutes. 3 minutes is not a little burnout. I pulled it out yesterday and yelled. Only 4 lifters out of the 16 survived right after the oil pump. One of my Fox really soon. Pistons came out today. You're doing a 351 just as an accelerator quickly after 4,200. I'm taking 195 horse 302 out. I'm putting the motor and I'm going to put together. Okay. Do you know what cam is in that motor, Brandon? I'm curious to see what's in the marine motor. Promax 210s and a turbo, a compression ratio, shoot 4 on pump gas. I don't know, somewhere in the 9s probably. That would give you some tuning window. Lower compression, pump gas, run the motor colder. All of that stuff will help with detonation. I mean, that's what we're trying to do, right? Keep it safe, keep it happy. Airflow research, yeah, what's up? A fancy Kenny Bell. And they did a nice job cutting that thing. That's a lot nicer than the block I had cut. I see there's no dowel on that camshaft. It's an 80s model 302. I've heard the blocks are stronger, but who knows? I have an 80s model too, but the block isn't any stronger than the. All the hydraulic roller blocks should be the same. What's a rough difference in power on a dyno with dry dyno headers versus if it was in a dyno for marine testing with a wet boat exhaust? Some of the wet exhaust can be a lot. I've tested on a big block and it can be 70 or 80 horsepower. It can be a lot. Surfer Jack, how much power do you want? So now I need lifters, camshaft, cam bearings, and more. Know anyone that sells that stuff? Did you just do a really, really long burnout and the thing lost oil pressure? Is that what I'm hearing? Did the motor get hot or anything? Whatever 351 can handle that, breaking the crank. Oh, so you're just gonna turn it all the way up and just go for it? Surfer Jag. So are you doing rods and pistons in that thing? You put aluminum heads in it. That's good. Pistons came in today. Okay, so you are doing pistons in it. I'm assuming that rods too. Then I would put a G42 on it. On a 351. Oh, the oil pump left the chat? Oh, okay. Did the oil pump break? Did I not look at the photos there? Did the gear on the pump break? Oh yeah, you don't have that. Yeah, that cam is not. The cam lifters are definitely not happy. Not happy. Yeah, Surfer Jag on a 351, I definitely would go with a I don't know what cam you have in that, but I would definitely go with a G42. That thing will be more than responsive enough on a 351, judging by how well it's working on the 5.3. Big boost, yeah. 7.5 to, I guess it's like 9.5. So, or is that 8.5? I need to look at that. I need to zoom in on that. Oh yeah, I was wrong. That's 7.5 to 8.5. So it went up a pound, or no, it dropped a pound. So it was right. Okay, so when we put the cam in, went from 7.5 pounds, or from 8.5 pounds down to 7.5 pounds. When we went from the stock cam to, I was thinking that was reading that as 9.5 because it wasn't coming up very well on the StreamYard stuff. So it dropped at about a pound when we went from the stock cam to the 274 cam. On the 258 cam, it didn't drop it nearly as much, and the gain wasn't nearly as much on the smaller cam, but it was a good bit better than the stock cam. How do the oil pump break? That's what I want to know. How do you break that? Was it were you valve floating it or banging on the rev limit or something? Oh, you're using the SUPERCHARGER, using the 274 cam or the 224, 232, whoever makes. Doesn't have to be extreme energy one. Lots of them out there. Yeah, if you're wanting to make power, which it sounds like you're going to, then that G42 turbo definitely would be the one to go to. That would be the go-to. The GOAT. Jimmy should have the Rotrex on here pretty quickly. The turbo stuff is all off, and I think he's putting the Rotrex on, so. $72 to $7,500. So that's what you were doing. That's what is your burnout speed? Sustained for minutes at a time? That's brave. That's a lot. Or is it you're saying that that's when you hurt her? Not help her. It sounds like you didn't help her very much. Sounds like it was more of the hurtful variety. There. That's where it hurt her. There you go. 7,500. And what was that, an LS3? Is that what you said? TR stage 4 LS3 cam. Oh, let's see. It's an LS3. Do you have any larger cam shafts for sale in the Truck Plus? Yeah, it was an LY5. Okay. Or the driver did. Yeah. Yeah, we do that stuff from time to time. I'm waiting for Jimmy's transmission to tell us that. Hey, guess what? Remember all those miles I have? Yeah, we're not doing this anymore. Remember you said you guys are going to get the 4L80? You need to go get that like today. Because I'm done. Anytime now that's going to happen. Anytime. Got more stuff done on my treehouse. Got my ladder done. Got some holes dug so I could pour some cement in them so I could set my posts. But digging the holes is the hardest part. Digging the holes through the surface is none of it's even naturally. So just if it was all smooth and level, you'd know exactly how far to sink the posts. It's not any of that. So there's going to be some calculations going on here. Probably more like eyeballing it. And then so lots of roots, tree roots, various plants, rocks. Squirrels have planted all sorts of things under there. So there's all kinds of stuff on it. So digging took the longest of all of this stuff. And I'm still not 100% certain that the holes I have are in the right spot. I think that they're a little wider than they need to be because I'm moving stuff around. What I did was I kind of made a mock-up with posts going down. They're not the right length, but so that I could look at what the framing is going to look like. Oh, okay, yeah, is that the right height and stuff? And did I sink those far enough and all that? Just so that I could visualize it, and it's helped a lot because I've already have had to make a couple of revisions. Make 460s reliable, just not behind high horsepower. Yeah, his is reliable. It's lasted 350,000 miles, so I don't think there's any concern for reliability. It's just that with the turbo stuff and now the blower stuff, we'll also do some NA stuff. Has anybody out there ever tried to put either the early return style fuel rail from the early truck manifold or the later non-return style fuel rail from the early truck manifold, because they had both of those? Have you ever tried putting that on a Trailblazer SS intake manifold? I'm pretty sure that the injectors will all go in and they're at the right angle. I don't know if the crossover tube will work. And I also don't know this for sure, but I don't think that the mounting tabs are the same for both the manifolds. I mean, I know that there's a dedicated, and we have one, a dedicated injector rail for the Trailblazer SS. I'm just wondering if we could get something like that to interchange, because that would be sweet. That would be totally sweet. Oh yeah, that pump's not happy. That's a multi-piece. Some assembly required. I don't think I've seen a broken one like that. I don't remember breaking any of them. I think we cracked a Honda one time, but it was still working. The rail does fit between the Trailblazer SS. Does fit because the Trailblazer SS is taller than the older intake. The rail fits because the Trailblazer SS is taller than the older intake. Well, what I want is the earlier rail to fit on the Trailblazer SS. So if the Trailblazer SS is taller, that would mean that it probably wouldn't fit, right? It doesn't fit? Okay. I didn't think that it did. Trailblazer SS is good. It's a good, if you have the hood clearance, it's a good intake manifold. That oil pump is not good. That is not happy. Big power. Went from this to this, and then from that to that. Cam, and then boost. We already had the springs. Then that cam. These cylinder heads. Although if I look at that thing has link bar lifters in it, which is probably a different motor. Just because I needed an airflow research photo. I don't remember running link bar lifters very often in a 5-liter Kenne bell blower. Learn something, keep it under 7,000. Do you keep it under 7,000 when you're doing burnouts? Because we made lots of runs that are beyond that by quite a bit. But maybe our oil pump is well worn. I'm sure it is with that many miles on it and that many runs on it. It's got to have more than 700 now. That thing keeps going though. It's funny when you talk to engine guys. Oh, you're gonna wear that thing out on the dyno. Well, this is the 700th dyno pull, and it still makes exactly the same power that it did the first time I put it on. So it's not worn out. It still runs good. So it'd be interesting to see how many it took to actually make it do that, to where you start, where there would be a degradation in power. There. Lifters and trays, Lubbock truck cam, like it. Bill, lower. Aww. It's good bearing clearance for nitrous 347 with H-beams, 150 shot. Are you talking, do you want to know both rod and main bearings? We're at about 2.5 thousandths on the rods and probably 2.7 or 2.8 on the mains. Maybe next time I'll get 5,000 or 6,000 miles on it before I do a crazy burnout. Did you just put it together and take it out and do that, or running stock A9L 6200 limiter? Can't usually over cam it for its potential power band. Are you talking about this blower motor? Yeah, you can not just the cam, the intake manifold also. You can do all of that stuff and have it want to make power, like put a single plane manifold on it and put a big cam in it and have good heads like those airflow research heads. Put a Vortec on it so it has a rising boost curve. I mean, you can do all that stuff and have it want to make power beyond that RPM range. So you want to keep it under that, then yeah, you do all those things accordingly. Maybe 1,000 miles on the cam rings. Those should be all the cam and stuff should all be broken in like almost right away. I mean we don't do any break in when we do a cam swap. Not on a hydraulic roller deal. There must be a squirrel outside. It must be a squirrel related emergency. I did see a coyote today, which was cool. I was riding. I went on a bike ride today, and was out. Let's call it in the country. I was out riding on country roads, and a coyote ran across the street in front of me. It's pretty good size too. Maybe a bad oil pump. Yeah, you don't know. I mean, you gotta look closely and see if there's material in there. Did you get something? It's hard to get something past the screen that could damage the pump, though. Excuse me. Just weird. That's what happens. Maybe not. Maybe next time, not a 3-minute burnout or something. Does anyone use 2050? Imagine distributor gears keep breaking with this molasses going to 1030. Yeah, 2050 when it's cold should be fairly thick. I don't know why you'd be breaking distributor gears. What kind of motor is? If it's a 5-liter Ford, wouldn't you spin the shaft first? Seven pulls on the dyno. Yeah, it's just getting broken in. I mean, I don't know how many. I don't remember. I don't think we ever looked. I almost never do that. We didn't look and see how many miles it had on it to begin with when it came out of its used vehicle. But it's had lots of testing done to lots of different camshafts. It's got all the BTR stuff. You know, we ran the Truck Norris and the Hot Rod and the Red Hot and the Stage 3 cam. Ran the BTR Trinity manifold, ran those trick flow heads, just ran all kinds of stuff. Turbos, you know, when Jimmy came out, we did the GTX 3584 RS, a super responsive turbo. We ran the G42, which, as it turned out on the street, is also very responsive. Ran a bunch of testing on that stuff. Ran the Truck Plus cam. We ran a whole bunch of stuff. We used 1040 in our endurance race cars, 15 hours of racing on a weekend. We got a little 50 or 60 pound pit bull that absolutely hates coyotes. Walk around the neighborhood at 2 a.m. to scare them off. Yeah. Yeah, this was a lone one by him or herself. I wasn't close enough to see if it was a male or female. But it was bigger than Brady and Bruno are, but probably not as big as Milo was. Yeah, Edward, oil coolers are a good idea. Just my roller rockers on my LS, had 3/4 to 1 1/4 from zero lash till it got tight. This is acceptable. If you did roller rockers on your LS, unless they're bolt down roller rockers, then you don't use that method. Are they bolt down roller tip and roller fulcrum rockers? I don't remember seeing those. Bolt down Harlan Sharps. Okay. Yeah, as long as the thing that's weird about aftermarket rockers, roller tip rockers, is that the geometry can be different than the stock one is. But as far as the lifter preload, what you just did there should be fine. Steel cam core and MSD distributor gears keep wearing excessively with our drift races. 47 A2 deck, 12,000 slash. Factory Fox body distributors. A factory Fox body distributor has a steel gear on it, and the camshaft that you have probably has a steel gear on it too, right? Like a factory one does. There should be no incompatibility between those two. But I've never done drifting with a 5-liter though. This cam, the picture of the 274 cam, small walk forward, of course. Yeah, I honestly don't. I mean, the cam box was the extreme energy, but this cam that I'm showing there was probably not the cam that we put in for this test. Actually, this is probably another extreme energy cam from another time. Steel on steel, no bueno. I just mean that the factory cam gear and the factory distributor should be plenty compatible. Because none of the factory stuff uses like a bronze gear, and they're not using obviously a composite one. We're oiling them, 40,000 orifice from the plug. Looking at putting LT heads on a Ford 400. Fuel injection using BRT intake, runner, sheet metal, plenum. On a Ford 400, like the 400M, you're putting LT heads on? How are you going to use what are you going to do for an intake manifold on that has over a 10-inch deck height? Do you RTV the bolts on aftermarket heads for the rockers of trick flow heads? You can, so that they don't leak. We don't ever do that on the dyno. I have done that on big block stuff, but I don't ever do it on LSs. Maybe I should, but I don't. I'm never concerned about idle vacuum on any of the LS stuff. So go the bronze gear. Well, we run bronze gears on distributors on the dyno because it's compatible with anything else. And we never run it very long, but it will, the bronze gear will definitely wear, though. You'll get bronze material in the motor. It's just not as, it's not as tough as the camshaft is, as the gear on the cam. And one of the two are definitely going to wear. Yep, that's right. Polycat 1, 2, 3. That's right. I remember telling the guys at Engine Masters when I did the Engine Masters challenge that I had 440 or something like that on the motor that I was testing. Oh, you wore the thing out on the dyno. I didn't. It repeated perfectly every time. What are you guys doing? Did you find something out there? Did you get it? Did you tell it? Not in my neighborhood, huh? Not in my house, huh? Did you tell the squirrels that they need to leave, huh? Did you tell them? Did you tell them? What do you smell, huh? What do you smell? What's Brady doing? Go get him. Go tell him. What's he doing? What's he doing? What's he barking at, huh? He's crazy, huh? He's crazy. He is, huh? He is. What are you doing, huh? What are you doing, huh? Hello, mister. Hello. What? What are you doing? Go get him. Attack. Billet cams need bronze gears. Joshua, happy to help. Oh, did you not decide you didn't want to leave? You just want more pets? Is that what the deal is? You want mommy to come home, huh? I know, she's your favorite. The Melonite gear, yep, you could use those. I wonder if you could you nitride the gear maybe? Or DLC coat it? Oh, what are you doing? Squirrels don't have a chance. They have yet to catch one. I did say that. I told them that. I know. I threw you under the bus. I'm sorry. He's mad now. Man, why you gotta say that in public? That's not right. Okay, I know we got a few minutes, and then I'll go down. And I will let you out. Okay. Gotta give me a few minutes. So I'm working here. Yeah, it needs boost. Need some high boostage. We start selling oil pumps. We can. We can. BTR has oil pumps. We sell their stuff. It's all about the coatings. We've run nitrided cams before, nitrided flat tappet cams, and that seemed to work fairly well. I've never tried DLC coating them. I remember somebody recently telling me that they DLC coated the bottoms of their flat tappet lifters, and that seemed like a lot to me, but you know, that's okay. Seems like you're spending more on the DLC coating than you are on a flat tappet lifter, but as long as it works. Adding canal gear, there you go. Titanium, because we know that works so well. Cryo treat them, yep. You can induction harden them. Or if we get the camshaft to work harden them there. I don't know if that's going to work too well. Here's a fun fact about Bratislava. You made out with your sister. That's not good. That's never good. Let's see what happens when I do a full screen on this. Can we read that better? Oh, there we go. Now we can read it better. Yeah, 7.5 to 8.5. And both of them jumped up a little bit there at the end. Exit out of, there we go. So now let's see what, I don't know if, are you guys seeing the full screen when I do that? Yeah, wow. Twin screw. Internal compression. Fancy. Fancy schmancy. Add to the stage. Now appearing on stage, Candy with an I. Big power. That's what Boost does. Just more better everywhere. Kind of nice. I was wondering if titanium retainers are worth it in the LS world. There's not much of a gain there. There's not much of a drop in weight. And I remember watching Brian show me some of the Spintron stuff where the steel retainers are actually a little better. Frequency thing because they're running a mullet on, oh, a gear drive. Oh, okay. Is there lash in the gears? Are you like hammering the gear for the distributor? We quit running titanium retainers in cup because of metal and the oil. Titanium is probably not good for bearing material, I would imagine. These flat tap lifters with the oiling holes drilled in the face, but haven't tried coated ones. They drilled through the bottom of the lifter. Inconel probably gall up like there's no tomorrow. Ever tried drilling through Inconel? I hate drilling through stainless, even just working on the stainless exhaust when I was doing the stuff with Jimmy, or whenever we have to drill through the stainless headers to mount tubes on, which is why we put V-bands on all of the stuff. It made it a lot easier. But having to drill a hole in stainless and then put a tech screw in it. The tech screw is made of essentially plastic compared to the stainless header, and the header's just laughing at it. Like, watch me here. You got two pieces of stainless moving back and forth. We're gonna snap this tech screw right off. Luckily, it just all goes out. Newspaper lash, that's what you set the lash at, is that it's this much. It's the thickness of a newsprint. Back in the 90s, had stock block, ECAM, TFS heads, stock pulley Novi 2000, paid $492 at Powertrain. Yeah, Steve's good people. Titanium rods would be fun and small but forward that you want to RPM, not necessary but fun. Bikes use them for turning 14,000. Bell notification. Everyone off Lunchbox. What's going on, man? Everyone's doing good. We do only have a couple minutes though. Here, I'll catch you up really quick. Kenny Bell blower. Cam. Careful research heads. Cam made lots of power. Boost made lots of power. When we put the cam in, it dropped boost. Boom. I can't do a poll on this. I can't do a poll with this StreamYard stuff. I could write a post down and you guys can all vote yes or no, but it wouldn't appear as a poll. My dogs. Media assets, banners. It might allow me to do that if I bought their updated version of that. Maybe it would allow me, maybe it would give me more options. Just out there digging in the dirt. It's nothing better than digging a hole for the post for your cement and digging it in the wrong spot. Kenny Bell and AFR heads, and all is good in the world. You forgot about the cam though. You gotta have the cam too. And then we had the big GT40 intake manifold on it. Yeah. And I think we only had 36-pound injectors in this thing. Coiling holes in the center of the lifter face when it contacts the cam lobe. It's a very small hole, 10,000 or something. Solid flat tab lifters. Okay. I really liked watching the oiling. We did that. I think I did a video on it. The oiling for the slider cams on the 2.2 Dodge motors, because we Ben primed the system with a drill, and then what we did was just rotate the cam by hand, and so we could see where each one, where it would uncover a little sliver basically, and it would shoot oil out. It's pretty cool. What's a better supercharger, the Kenny Bell or Whipple? For what? Cutting edge of the spring wears into the titanium. Metal goes right into the oil. Yep. The Kenny Bell has a more modern rotor pack than a Whipple does. Eric did the small but Ford challenge. He said 10 people cared about it compared to thousands for the people who watched the LS challenge. I didn't even know he did it, so, and I would have been interested in it. Every cam becomes a turbo blower cam. Yeah, the factory turbo cam on the Dodge, on the 2.2 Dodge, is definitely a turbo cam. Yeah, I think Edward, LS and LT would be. I don't think LT would be as much as LS. And I think even fewer people would be interested in Coyote cams. Did David Vizard win the Ford challenge, or one of his friends, or one of Eric's friends? Got 2 more minutes. Next one, small block Chevy. He'll have he'll have a following for the small block Chevy stuff, you think? David's was mid-pack. What was Eric's test motor? I'll have to look that up. Just curious what size the motor was and stuff. Pfizer's posting about the importance of lobe centerline. Last I checked, asking for folks to prove them wrong. Seems like a chance to get from mid-pack to top. I don't see any definitive evidence on how to exactly spec a cam without having a dyno and a bunch of grinds on hand. Yeah, Eric did a small buck Ford. Oh, a 427, big heads, 11-1, no more than 720 lift, looking for peak and average power from 5 to 75. Okay. It doesn't seem like the marketplace for a Ford cam. Does Kenny Bell fare on a 462 valve? I have 462 valve Kenny Bell videos up. LQ4 RHP low buck truck, 862 GT45. Will a 50 millimeter gate be enough? It was enough on the stock 5.3 going to a G42 soon. Yeah, I think that's what we used on. I think that's what we have right now on Jimmy's Tahoe with the G42 on it. I want to see him do an NHR Pro Stock Cam Challenge. Yeah. And post the specs. Yeah. That would be tough. Bruce, we will have wastegates soon. We did some testing. We did some wastegate testing on Jimmy's stuff and on the engine dyno, and it works good. In fact, we were able to get as low as 4 pounds on some of this stuff. So that's actually the harder thing. Solid roller only, definitely not for street engines, 250, 268 durations on lots of the cams. Yeah, that's kind of where it would be on a 427. But I just mean that the number of people that would be using that is so small. The number of people that would be building a 427, very small. And then the number of people that would be doing, I don't know, it just seems weird. It's all fun to watch, though. It's all fun and games until somebody gets an eye poked out. Oh, it looks like I shorted the stock cam there. Only revved her to 5,900. What that dip is there. See, that's what makes me think that this thing needed more tuning. Need to be on the tune. But on that note, it is time to go. But I will be back tomorrow. Are dome pistons about the only way to bump a 5.3 to 12 to 1 or 13 to 1? Yes. I mean, you could go a small thin head gasket, cut the head. Maybe you could weld up a chamber and do more of that, but I think it's going to require some kind of dome piston on a motor that's that displacement. Like Engine Masters, where they run from 2,500 to 6,500. Yeah, again, the RPM range is really, it's it's like ultra specific for that kind of test, and I just don't know. I'm sure it's just for entertainment. Probably help his channel grow. Later. Late ski. There.